So the question, which was emailed in, so I can't really tease out any more specifics about what's being asked, but the question has to do with the change in the early part of the Old Testament from human lives being very lengthy, up to nearly 1,000 years, to what more like what we see today, right? And I take the question to be asking, is there some scientific or physical explanation or mechanism there? I mean, the Christian response would be, God decreed this change. I take the question to be asking, have I come across any more scientific or more physical explanations for that? And the answer is, I have heard at least one possible explanation. Kind of the thing that really limits human lifespan today, and probably always has, is really cell death. So while we die of things like heart attack or cancer or anything else, what places that kind of, let's say, 120-year limit on human beings is just what seems to be somewhat of a programmed cell death. That cells, even though they're regenerating and making new, our bodies are continually making new cells and things like that, that there is a limit to how many generations of cells we can produce without just taking on a load of de-evolution, if you were, a load of defects and things like that make us no longer able to overcome the germs and things that we face. So one possibility is that at a point in time, shortly after the flood, God just did something within the human cell structure to make that change. That may not be a satisfactory enough answer for this person and purpose. Another possibility that I've heard of is that the physical phenomenon that occurred at that same time when human lifespans decreased by so much was a fairly nearby supernova, the explosion of a fiery star, which itself generates a whole lot of harmful rays in the neighborhood of Earth. And so that either because God simultaneously reprogrammed our cells, or in response to such a phenomenon, it's possible that lifespans necessarily decreased because of an increase in local harmful radiation, that sort of thing. Neither of those answers are verifiable or maybe even satisfactory if they could be verified. So let me turn and kind of give a second answer to that, more of a philosophical one. And that is, it has become popular in this whole realm of trying to integrate science with what the Bible claims. It's become popular to try to find a natural explanation for what is otherwise taken to be miraculous in the book of Scripture. And I think at some point that becomes a little wrong-headed. So, for instance, to take a clear example here, there's a passage in the Old Testament in which there's a false prophet claiming to speak for God, and God seeks to get his attention. The prophet's name is Balaam, and the way God ends up getting Balaam's attention, according to the passage in the Old Testament, is by speaking through his donkey. It's the story of Balaam's ass, and the donkey speaks to the prophet. Now, one thing I know, and that is that this account is not in the Old Testament because somehow the people of that day were too stupid to know that donkeys don't normally talk. Okay? So let's not make that mistake. So the first readers, the Old Testament readers of this account, knew just as well as you or I do that donkeys don't talk, okay? So the difference between them and us is that they were keenly aware that this world is not just physical and material, but that there is a spiritual component to it. And so that worldview, which I take to be an accurate and a biblical one, would allow for God in a very particular case to use a creature that he had made in a supernatural or unnatural way. Okay, so that's my take on Balaam's ass. And so it'd be wrong-headed of me to go around looking for other, members of the horse family that occasionally produce sounds that could be inferred to be intelligible human speech, right? You see my point. And so when I apply that to other questions like the decrease in the longevity of human beings, there probably comes a point where too much natural explanation would take away from the point of the whole story, which is that there is some miracle going on here. There is something supernatural going on here. So without being completely satisfied with the explanation, well, God just decreed it so, still being able to look for some physical explanation in the way God bore out that decree or whatever, I'm not going to go so far in that natural explanation as to take away the miraculous aspect of it. So I know I didn't satisfactorily answer the specific question, but hopefully my philosophical take on it would give us some sideboards for where we should try to end up whenever we ask a question of that sort.